Rustic Bandit, and this is my gaming channel. First ever video and series I'm going to be doing on my gaming channel is going to be based on personally one of my favorite games of all time, as well as definitely my favorite strategy game of all time, which I played a lot of strategy games throughout the year of all different types of genres. But the Civil War is something that's near and dear to my heart. I grew up in Virginia, still live in Virginia, so which is very much a focal point for much of the Civil War. So it was always of great interest to me. For mine, definitely my favorite point in history. I love a bit of a history buff. So this game has always resonated with me. It's a sequel to a previous game, Ultimate General Gettysburg, which really just focused on the Battle of Gettysburg. Obviously, they expanded it and created Ultimate General Civil War, which mostly focuses on the eastern front of the war, although you do get some battles on the western front as well. So we're just going to go straight into the game. There's 3 game modes: campaign, historical battle, or custom battle. We're obviously going to be playing straight through the campaign. So when you start the game, you sort of get to choose this sort of backstory for your character. Basically, you get to customize the way you play the game, at least some of the attributes, mostly post-game attributes, like post-battle attributes that affect sort of building your army, although there's a few choices that affect in-game play as well. In the background, you can hear Lincoln's House Divided speech, as well as Jefferson Davis's announcement that Mississippi will be leaving the Union, sort of playing in the background. I don't know if I'm talking too loud for it, but like I said, you sort of get this sort of backstory for your character, so to speak, and like I said, you get to customize your characters, sort of. So you have this backstory. You always dreamed of becoming a military officer like your father. You feel it is your destiny to serve your nation, earning glory with honor on the battlefield. So this is what I'm talking about. So you got your West Point graduation. You get to choose between 3 different sort of types of, I guess, sort of what kind of officer you are. You could be a tactician, a strategist, or a logistician. Sorry. Which basically, again, affects your in-game attributes. So you have army organization and reconnaissance if you choose tactician. Army organization, you see you get 1 point towards all of it in all 3 points, or all 3 different types. It's just affects how big your army can be. Reconnaissance affects like the data you get between and in-game. You get to see sort of what the enemy's strength is, as well as what it is currently in the game. Basically, as the enemy takes casualties, you can actually see how many units he has left. The higher your reconnaissance is, the more information you get. Training affects like the veterancy of units. Well, actually, it affects how much it costs to buy veterans rather than replacing them with raw recruits. And then logistics affects how much ammunition you get during the battle. I'm going to be going Confederacy. Again, I'm from Virginia, so I gotta pick, sort of side with my state here, so to speak. Also, mostly actually because I haven't actually played the Confederacy as nearly as much as I've played the Union. The Union, in my opinion, is honestly the much more interesting way to go. The battles are much more interesting, but I digress. So I never usually go reconnaissance, especially if it's your first time playing through. You could definitely go reconnaissance. I would actually kind of recommend it, at least giving a few points towards it early game. That way you could sort of see what you're up against, so you know how to build your army. I played the game enough times where I sort of know the type of army I need to bring to each battle. Although the game does change here and there. And then you have training and logistics. Now, like I said, I'm going Confederacy. Believe it or not, Confederacy, even if you get base recruits, they're actually a bit stronger than sort of raw recruits if you bought them from the Union. So I don't see as much point of getting training, because I'm eventually going to put points towards training, but I feel like early game I can buy a lot of raw recruits and still do pretty well against the Union. So I'm going to put this point right now into logistics. Just so I have more ammo during the game. Sorry, I just hit my mic there, if that made a difference. Then you get to choose what you did in the Mexican-American War. You can be artilleryman, infantry, or cavalry. Again, cavalry gives you more reconnaissance. Again, if you're first time playing the game, if you were to choose, what was it, strategist in the last one, or tactician, I believe it actually is reconnaissance, gives you the reconnaissance point and the cavalry. And this, you pretty much have enough reconnaissance points to really set you up pretty well throughout the entire game. You really don't need too many more reconnaissance points than I would say about 4. That gives you enough information where you can build an army and know what you're up against. But again, I never really go reconnaissance, although it does give you another point in logistics. Infantrymen, I feel, is a much better choice for going if you're going to Union, because like I said, you don't get as good of raw recruits if you choose the Union. They're definitely, the Confederacy troops are much better raw, so going training as Union is probably a better option. Not only does it give you that extra reconnaissance point, especially if you chose reconnaissance next one, because reconnaissance is a weird one where you have to get 2 points towards each one to actually make a difference, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. But training really is much more valuable for the Union early on than it is for the Confederacy, so infantry is always a really good way to go if you're going Union. But artillery is typically, no matter if I'm going Union or Confederacy, is the one I go with. Just because it gives you the 2 point towards medicine, which actually increases the amount of people you get back at the end of each battle. Basically, it's like the walking wounded, essentially. And then it also gives you 2 more points to logistics, which gives you more ammo throughout the battle, which is always a bonus. So I almost always go artillery. And then you're furthering your career, so sort of after the war, what you did after the war. Yeah, business, army, and politics. Business gives you more economy, which actually gives you the ability to buy more or cheaper weapons, and it also gives you more logistic points. You have army, which gives you more training, and army organization. And again, a very good one to go if you're going to go Union, because it gives you that extra point of army organization, which for the Union is much more efficient, because the battles you play as the Union early on, you can actually bring more troops into the war. Whereas I believe like Battle of Manassas, which is the first grand battle for the Confederacy, you can only bring 3 units of your own troops. They give you a lot more units, but you can only bring 3 of your own units into that first battle. So having army organization at the Union gives you the opportunity to bring a little bit more troops in. If I remember correctly, it has actually been several months since I played this game, but I'm pretty sure in the Union you can actually bring more troops to the Battle of Manassas than the Confederacy, if you play as a Confederacy. And then finally politics, which gives you politics and more economy. Politics actually affects how many troops, reputation, and money you get at the end of every battle. Politics is typically what I go with, whether I'm playing Union or Confederacy, just because it gives you that politics bonus, which having that buff at the beginning of the game after you complete every battle is very helpful, because you get a lot more troops, manpower, and reputation and money earlier on, and you really want to start banking the troops and money specifically, because you can start spending that money on better weapons early game, which would help really in the long run, sort of help avoid losses in the future. So we're going to go politics. And like I said, we're going to go Confederacy. We're going to stick with my home state of Virginia and go the way they went. Although, like I said, the Union does typically have a better playthrough, in my opinion. Specifically, like some of the grand battles, like Gettysburg, for example. As a Confederacy, you have to win Gettysburg on day 1. I've never not won Gettysburg on day 1. I mean, you pretty much have to win Gettysburg on day 1, or you're just not going to win that battle. And because it's such an important battle, you're probably more than likely going to lose the war, and your game's going to end if you lose Gettysburg. So you really got to win on day 1. Whereas the Union, you actually get to see all 3 days of the battle. So like I said, the Union can be typically a little bit more fun to play as, especially as you get into late game. Although the Union does have one of the most difficult battles of the entire game, in my opinion. Maybe some people don't find it as difficult, but the Battle of the Muleshoe and the Cold Harbor campaign is just ridiculously hard. I mean, it was a pretty horrific battle to begin with, but in the game, it's extraordinarily difficult. I would say it's actually harder than the Battle of Cold Harbor, which sort of doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead, we're going to play as the Confederacy. Oh, you get to choose between 3 difficulty levels. You can play it as Colonel, which is, if this is your first time playing the game, obviously play as Colonel. It definitely gives you a good feeling for the game. Brigadier General is basically just the base game. You don't get any bonuses or penalties, as it says. So you're just sort of playing the raw game as well. And then Major General is a little more difficult. You also get less. The enemies are going to be stronger. You also get less gold and recruits and everything at the end of every battle. And then, sorry, excuse me. Legendary mode, which makes it even more harder. The AI is much smarter. I've not beaten the game on legendary mode for the Confederacy. I've beaten it on the Union, but the Confederacy is a much harder game through and through. I've beaten it on Major General as Confederacy, but I've never. I usually get to about Antietam on legendary mode with the Confederacy, and usually give up because it gets too difficult. I've beat Antietam on legendary difficulty, but I've been left with like no army left, just barely scraping by. We're gonna play on Brigadier General just so we can just sort of get the feeling of the game and just sort of see some of the strategies and everything that I employ without, wanting to pull my hair out. So although I'm bald, pretty practically bald, I shaved my head. Anyway, regardless, we're gonna play on Brigadier General. There we go, Caustic Bandit, and as you can see, it tells you where you just allocated all your resources to. So as you can see, I'm very heavy on politics and logistics. Politics gonna help me out post battle, with logistics gonna help me out during the battle itself. I'm not gonna have to worry about ammo as much, at least early on, because I don't typically put a lot towards logistics until the end. I sort of build myself this way so I have logistics at the beginning and I don't have to worry about it. I can start allocating points to politics and economy. It tends to be what I put most of my points towards. Early game, medicine and training, and army organization also flow in there as well. Reconnaissance, like I said, I don't really even pay attention to unless we're towards the end of the game and I'm just starting to put points into reconnaissance because I got nothing else to put points into. So let's go ahead and begin the game. General, your first assignment is to secure a small coastal fort at the bank of the Potomac River. Your vanguard must hurry up and eliminate the Union batteries while the fort is lightly guarded. The Federals have been alerted and gathering forces to block the river passage in front of you. Additionally, enemy regiments have been spotted marching along this road. Advance fast and gain ground before the fort is heavily reinforced, or else your task will be much harder. The rest of your troops will join you in about a half an hour. Alright, we're going to pause right away. Now, these early battles tend to be not very historically accurate. Like, this battle is loosely based on the Battle of Aquia Creek. Yeah, we'll go ahead and move them up this way. Which, really, again, it's nothing like it is in real life. Or the battle itself. It really wasn't even a battle. It was pretty much a few ships coming in and bombarding a fort that Lee had set up. And the fort was actually set up in a terrible position and was basically not effective against any any Union shipping in the area. So it was really a pointless thing. And once they realized that the fort was pretty much useless, the Union sort of left it alone. They make it to be much more a bigger battle than it actually was. So what I'm actually going to try and do is I'm trying to move my forces up into this area because we do have a few units that are going to be moving up through here. There's going to be skirmishes through here, which is why I'm moving Hexamer up. Let's go ahead and put these guys on a run. That's why I'm moving Hexamer up to sort of guard the right flank here in these woods, because there is going to be a few skirmisher units that are out in this position. Let's go ahead and fast forward this. A lot of this game is going to be, you see a lot of it. Oh, wow, they moved up pretty quickly. They don't usually move up so quickly. But as you can see, the Hexamer is starting to engage some Union forces. We were able to sort of take the woods at least before, and we'll sort of force them out onto the road, which is going to give us a cover bonus. Usually I can get to about this position without them even coming close to me. I'm wondering if I couldn't chase them off. Well, actually, I don't want to chase them off with Crocker, to be honest. What I actually want to do with Crocker is sort of move him up this way and then up to here. Just in case they retreat, I don't want them retreating back to the fort. Like I said, these guys should be enough to sort of block the incoming units along this road, but I definitely don't want these guys retreating to the fort either. Alright, so we're starting to set up in the woods. Let's go ahead and take them off run, just in case we start making contact. You typically don't want to make contact with the enemy at a run, because you just sort of got to stop. Yep, see, here we go. Here's the second Ohio. They're actually coming after a horseman, which I definitely don't want. Wow, they're charging after my horseman. Oh, wow. They really don't care about the infantry units at all, do they? Actually, let's move them right there. Then Crocker will move up behind them. Typically, I would engage them right about here, but I guess they saw my horseman first, and sorry, I keep distracting my mic, I apologize for that. But typically they, I engage right here, but I guess because they saw my horseman so early on, they sort of chased after them. Which actually gives them better position, because they have if they retreat, they're actually going to be retreating towards the fort, which actually is not a good thing for us, to be honest. That's why I'm sort of moving my horsemen into position behind them to sort of block. They'll be able to be in a position to both block these guys if they decide to retreat, as well as the 2 Ohio regiments if they decide to retreat. Now we're starting to get in our reinforcements. So we're going to go ahead and just push up through the middle here. Help out our skirmishers. We have Chetland's retreating, or at least he's starting to break. Move our general up to give these guys some morale. Like I said, the last thing you want to do in this early battle is let these troops get to the fort, because then it's just going to be much harder taking the fort from the enemy. Let's go ahead and move my supplies up this direction. As you can see, Chetland is starting to retreat. Don't want to be too close to the woods in case he does sort of rally. Because skirmishers in woods against horsemen can be actually extreme, even if the horsemen have a much larger unit, can be extremely devastating against cavalry. I'm sorry, I keep calling them horsemen, but I think you understand what I'm getting at. These 2 Ohio regiments are, well, at least the 3rd Ohio is starting to get pretty devastated because they're the ones right up in front. The 2nd Ohio regiment can't even really fire that well because they're sort of firing behind the unit. That does actually affect them. I'm actually surprised they're even able to fire, because usually it says blocked if you have a unit in front of you. So we caught them out in the open, so this Crocker should be able to just sort of devastate this skirmisher unit pretty easily. Especially seeing as Crocker is technically a melee cavalry unit. So he's pretty much devastated Shetland, so I'm going to actually move him up here. Sort of head off. Oh, there we go. We took out Chetland. This 3rd Ohio unit, now that he's sort of broken away from combat, is probably going to try and make its way to the fort, so I actually want to try and get them before they can rally. Put Kemper at a run, try and get a volley in. Our charge hadn't respawned yet. So we got them in the water, which means they're going to take a lot more casualties. I got a feeling, though, they're going to end up making it back to the fort. Gonna bring Hexmer up to try and put some fire onto the 2nd Ohio. We just made them break. Crocker has actually been killed. That's fairly odd. You don't usually see that when we have him on the run like that. We're gonna charge right into these guys. Alright, so we're doing some fairly good work against these guys. These skirmishers are routing, but I want to try and keep the pressure on them. Like I said, I don't want any of these units to make it back to the fort. I think we should be able to break the 2nd Ohio unit before they make it there. I don't know, it's... yeah, maybe. Maybe we'll be able to get them. At least we're going to cause a lot of casualties to them before they make it. And there he goes. Alright, Crocker, head your way down here. Head off these skirmishers. And there you go. Fairly straightforward. We were able to defeat all their advanced units, so they shouldn't have... I think they were going to have, like, another skirmisher unit, and yes, the 1st Ohio defending the fort, as well as the 2 guns. But seeing as we were able to devastate these units before they even made it to the fort, we shouldn't have too much difficulty against them. We're going to have these 2, Siegfried and Kemper, sort of line up. On this edge of the fort, we're going to have Hexamer guard this flank, because a lot of times the artillery will sort of retreat this way, along the sort of banks there. Crocker will leave in reserve over here, in case they do retreat that way. I can move Crocker up the shore. And I actually still have my supplies all the way back here as well. So we'll attack en masse. We still have Kemper running, that's why he's all the way up there already. Alright, let's go ahead and fast forward. We're at a far enough distance where we're going to take some casualties from the artillery guns, clearly. But we shouldn't take too many casualties as we wait for everybody to come into position. Again, I don't want to take too many casualties because we are going to have to defend the fort once we take it. Alright, Siegfried's about in position. So Siegfried and Kemper will move up this way. These 3 units attack this edge of the fort. Crocker move forward. You 2 move forward as well. So yeah, we have a skirmisher unit and the 1st Ohio in the fort itself. Again, we should be able to sort of overwhelm these guys because Birney and Canfield should be able to just sort of move up these walls without any issues. The rest of them will sort of just hold everybody in place. Hexamer, let's move you up into the woods. Get the general up for morale support. And then we'll have these guys. Canfield will attack Battery B, Birney. As you can see, they slow down as they start to climb the walls. So any obstacles they do have to go over does sort of impede them. Let's go ahead and get Allen up on the walls as well. We are going to make these guys run. Let's start taking out these guns. Let's move Crocker up. Allen, you run up the walls as well. To attack Miles. Alright, so we routed that battery. Let's go ahead and have Crocker charge him. Miles is retreating from the fort. I'm not really sure what maneuver he's thinking. Again, like I said, the AI can be slightly wonky at times. Yeah, he just got devastated. The 1st Ohio is now routing. Looks like we should be able to take this base or fort with relative ease at this point. Miles is actually surrendered now. We're going to actually charge in the Kemper's battalion. or regiment, I guess. These are a little too small to be battalions. Whenever you see somebody surrender, you actually want to try and move them to the rear as quickly as possible, because they can actually get taken back. Alright. So that battery's up in the wind. These guys are pretty much taking the fort. First Ohio is running. We're probably not going to catch up with them, which is not that big of a deal, actually. Crocker, you charge in. Well, Crockett's dead, but whoever is in charge now. And that battery should fall any second. And we secured the fort. So the second half of this battle is the more true-to-life aspect of the battle. It's when the timberclads come in and actually start bombarding the fort. But again, to make things more interesting, the game also sends Union infantry against you as well. Whereas the reality of the battle was, it was just a couple of timberclads that came and actually bombarded the fort. In here it says ironclads, but they were actually just timberclads. The fort has served our purposes for some time and has prevented the enemy supply ships from passing this section of the river. That's actually not true at all. But now the Union is on the offensive. Ironclads approach to bombarders. Like I said, they were actually timberclads, not ironclads, as the game speaks. But it's funny too. They don't even look anything like ironclads. Those sort of models for the game. Enemy Federal infantry is disembarked west of the fort and is moving to attack. We have called for help and more troops will arrive shortly to support the defense. It is advised to deploy some skirmishers along the ridge west of the fort to delay the Yankee advance. We need to buy time for our fort's batteries to counterfire and disable the ironclads. General, hold your ground at all costs. We must prove today that the rebellion has a strong foundation and we will fight for every inch of southern soil. So we are going to do just that. We are going to sort of break skirmishers off, which you can do from major infantry units. Just break off small sections of skirmishers. We are going to deploy them in several sections along the ridge line here. Put Birney skirmishers there. Kempers in this fort here. We are also going to move Siegfried up into this farmhouse for now as well, just to sort of hold back the tide as much as we can as well. We'll also move my character up. These two guys will fire at the Anacostia as well as the Freeborn, which were actually the names of the ships that I think there was also a third, but the Anacostia and the Freeborn were the names of the ships that actually took part in the battle. We're going to go ahead and fast forward this as we wait for because really it's just battery fire for right now until the Union troops start moving into position. As you can see, the skirmishers are really not going to be able to do much other than, like I said, just sort of hold them back a little bit. Go ahead and move Siegfried up a little bit more. Alright. We do have our cavalry unit now. We're going to sort of send these guys out this way, because the Union does have two guns up here, and I want to try and use my cavalry to at least try and take out one of them. I can usually get one. Sometimes I've been able to get both guns, but most of the time I can at least get one gun battery, which will help with the defense of the fort significantly. Like I said, these guys are just to delay, hopefully enough time for my reinforcements to arrive on that flank. That's really the point of this, putting my skirmishers up here. They're pretty much just sacrificial lambs. They're not going to make it. They might make it back to their respective units, but more than likely they are not. Alright, Crockett's moving into position. Their infantry's far enough away. I want to try and get this farther north battery first. They do see Crocker. They are going to fire a shot into him eventually. But if I can get one of the gun batteries down before that happens, that would be ideal. We might even be able to capture their supplies, which would be even more ideal. Maybe I should have sent them after the supplies first, but it's too late. They made contact. They should take out this first gun battery relatively easily. They also have left their general back here. Let's see. So they force back Kemper's skirmishers. Birney's skirmishers are fighting in the woods, but they are sort of being forced back as well. Siegfried is not a skirmisher unit, so he's not going to retreat automatically like that. Alright, so we should take out this gun relatively easily. I don't know. I'm really worried about that skirmisher unit right there. Alright, we took out the first gun battery. Let's go after the second one now. Go ahead and put these guys up on their flanks. Siegfried is also a bit of a sacrificial lamb. I will retreat him once my reinforcements start arriving. If not a little bit earlier, which actually they started to arrive. So let's go ahead and start moving these guys up onto their flanks. Let's get them in at a run. Siegfried is going to retreat into the fort. We've made contact. We should be able to take out that other gun. And Canfield is also on the battlefield now too, so let's go ahead and move him up at a run. Go ahead and slow these guys down. We don't want to run them completely because you don't want their condition to go all the way down. You want them to sort of stay as high as possible, because once they get exhausted, their efficiency starts going down. Alright, well Crocker is actually struggling against his second gun. I'm not really sure why. Alright, and we have supplies, so we're going to sort of swing the supplies out far. Not sure what Birney's doing right there. Move Siegfried skirmishers up onto there. Yeah, Birney, I don't know what you were doing. I don't know what you were thinking. Canfield's showing up on their rear. Oh, shoot, my generals are out in the open. Well, let's go ahead and just reattach Kemper's skirmishers now that they're sort of making contact with the fort area. And he has Stu yet to take out that gun unit. He's almost taking it out, but now I know they still have their skirmisher unit in here, so I don't really want to go after the supplies just yet. With my cavalry, that is. Let's go ahead and they're sort of out in the open end and morale has been broken, so alright, so we've taken out Crocker. Let's go after his general. Or sorry, we're taking out the Crocker's taking out the gun. Let's go after that general unit. It's gonna affect their morale. As you can see, we're sort of holding them back. Would not be surprised if they charge here shortly at my walls. Because once they start seeing that their casualties are beginning to mount up, typically they try and do one last charge just to try and break my defenses. And you see that throughout the game as well, not just in this location, but throughout the game. Alright, so let's just reattach you to your main unit. Our supplies are coming up. How is Crocker actually losing against... See how that sort of blinking white means his morale is starting to break? It's really weird because you shouldn't be breaking against a general unit. Or you're really just fighting the general's aides and whatnot. Like I said, I know there is a skirmisher unit hiding in these woods, so as much as I want to send Crocker against those supplies, he is moving sort of that way. Let's see if we can get those supplies. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if that was a bit of a glitch. That he should not have had that much of an issue. It looks like the supplies are sort of hanging close to that skirmisher unit, which I know to be somewhere in here, but I don't know. Maybe Crocker will get lucky. We've almost destroyed both ships. With the Anacostia is already down. Thomas Reborn is almost destroyed. A few more volleys into him should take him out. And then our guns will be able to focus on the infantry, which surprisingly has not charged yet. I would have expected him to actually charge by now. I don't really like putting my cavalry into the woods, especially against skirmisher units. Cavalry against skirmisher units, especially when the skirmisher units are in the woods, are actually, cavalry is like non-effective against and can be pretty well devastated. But we're gonna see how it goes. I really would love to get those supplies. When you capture supplies, so when you capture men, like I did, that small skirmisher unit in the first phase of this battle, you get a prisoner exchange. Whereas if you capture supplies, you basically get however many supplies that unit had in reserve in terms of money, which we actually got. Alright, we're gonna send him up against skirmishers. Skirmishers are out of the woods. Crocker is not one of the units I actually get, so I'm gonna use Crocker to charge and try and keep the supplies in our hand, because those skirmishers are coming after supplies. As you can see, like, Crocker's definitely not doing as well again, and he's broken. So we'll see if we actually can keep the supplies in our hand. We might send this guy up. It actually does not look like battle. Oh, I did not actually realize generals could take supplies. I didn't realize they could. I gotta know that for the future, because it's been several times where I've tried to use units to recapture supplies and not my general. Well, that's unfortunate. I did not realize that generals could do that. So even after all these times playing the game, you still learn something new each time. I'm probably gonna fast forward this. I feel like we're gonna hold. We've caused a lot of casualties, and they still have a lot to try and break through, especially with both their guns. Gunship's now gone. I still have both my guns up. We're doing pretty well against these units. Oh wow, we actually killed. What Crocker couldn't do, we actually did with my skirmishers. So we're actually going to gunlock at them, because they have a tendency of firing at supplies and actually killing the troops. We're going to gunlock them, and then we're going to try and get them in there to capture the supplies. Battle's all the way up here now, so we don't even have to worry about their skirmishers, so we should be able to take the supplies with relative ease. We can charge in, that just makes them go a little bit faster. And the supplies are out, alright, move back, get on their flank. We're going to move these supplies. We don't need them, so we're just going to move them all the way over here. Oh, he must be the division commander. So division commanders and regiment slash brigade commanders can actually be wounded or killed, and when that happens, the efficiency of that division or unit, whether it's regiment or brigade, technically the game considers them all brigades, but their efficiency will go down dramatically if their leader is killed. You can actually replace brigade commanders with divisional commanders, but you cannot replace division commanders with like your corps commander or anything like that until after the battle. During the battle you can't, but after the battle you certainly can. Alright, we should be able to break these guys out here relatively easily. I'm not worried about wasting troops and having them charge or anything like that. I'm pretty sure the battle has gone in my favor. I don't see really any way they're going to beat me at this point, so we're going to go ahead and put this on fast forward mode. Try and get this done as quickly as possible and get to the post-battle. So Siegfried and Alan have broken them, so we're going to start moving them up. Although these guys are running out of ammo out here. But so is the enemy, so I'm not too worried about it. I guess I could move my supplies, but I don't want to risk them getting captured, so I'm just going to leave it as is for now. They're not completely out of supplies. This is your supply right here. So they're almost out. That's the rate of reload. You have morale, cover, and condition. Cover gives you just a bonus to, obviously, your cover, so you take less casualties the more cover you're in. And then also you have, I guess I never can go over this. See how the command is now down? Because this is the division that, lost a divisional commander. So the command is now down, but as you can see, these are all the effects. Efficiency, morale, stamina, firearms, all those sorts of things, which I'm sure we'll go over the more we play the game. We're just sort of in this opening phase. We'll explain all that a little bit later. Alright, so, like I said, we're really just waiting for this timer to run out now. The Union really doesn't have the power anymore to actually take this fort. Unless they sort of start getting lucky, but that doesn't look to be the case, seeing as they are more and more their troops are now breaking. He's actually in a really good position, so what we're actually going to do is we're actually going to charge. We're going to try and force him out of there. These two units are too exhausted to charge, actually. Actually, all three of my units didn't have enough condition to get all the way in there. So that's actually unfortunate. But it's okay, these units, so a lot of these units, I think it's Kemper and Siegfried actually translate to the post game. Those are the units that carry over into the actual game, whereas the rest of these units don't. Now we can either decide to finish the battle, or we can actually continue playing. The only benefit to continuously playing would be the more supplies. So like like I said, the post game supplies that you get, which are this early in the game. With the size units that I'm fighting against, I'm not going to get that much extra supplies. I'd rather save the manpower, so we're just going to finish. And as you can see, I actually lost a unit down there. So we're just going to finish the battle. So this is our post-game report. The victory at Potomac Fort. This tells you everything you need to know. The two generals in charge, Maurice Nicholas and Caustic Bandit, their strength. So they actually outnumbered us. Pretty well, significantly, almost double the amount of troops that we had. And as you can see, they took more casualties than we actually troop spirited. So we did some damage against them. So as you can see, we got all our goals. You can even the game even breaks it down into the individual units, how each one performed. The kills towards losses, so obviously Siegfried did the best. He had 800 kills, 212 losses, basically a 4-to-1 kill-death ratio. The officers, as you can see, Colonel Ted Rowlett was wounded, Alfred Kemper was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel from Major, and then the goods that we received, this is what I was talking about. If we continued the battle, we might have actually received a little bit more of these sort of rescued and captured goods. But it may not have made too much of a difference. So we captured 4,895 supplies, whatever that amounts to. But that actually is the amount of cash you actually get for capturing supplies, is what that actually ends up translating to. But as you can see, we captured 4 guns, a bunch of Springfield 1855s, a lot of Springfield 1842s were rescued and captured. But so yeah, this is just sort of the post-game breakdown. Obviously, we got back a lot of our palmettos from our unit that took a lot of damage, our cavalry unit, because that's a cavalry weapon. So we're going into the post-game, and we won't do the post-game in this episode. We'll wait to the next episode to go through the post-game, just because this episode's already going on about 45 minutes, so... But as you can see, you get your battle reward. This is where the politics comes in, because I actually now get more reputation and money and troops because I have a higher politic rating. Which, like I said, early game, it's really what I put almost all my points to. So, thank you everybody for watching my first ever episode. And as you can see, yes, it was Siegfried and Kemper were the units that translated, as well as Cabell. But yeah, sorry. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you continue to watch. I just want to do this for fun. I really enjoy these type of games, and I really just want to sort of just share my gameplay with you all. So I appreciate you all for tuning in, and I hope you continue to tune in to this series and any other future series that I plan on doing. So again, thank you all for watching and spending your time with me. I appreciate it.